strategies, a comparative behavioral study between two iguana species on Honduras' Ixtela Island. We took this trip in January of this year through the behavioral biology department and an ERL course. Over the course of the semester, we've conducted the remaining research on the data that we collected on the island. So, Ixtela Island is one of 3 islands, and there are 3 iguana species on the island, the Highlander, Swamper, and Green Iguana. And we focused on just the Swamper and the Highlander as part of our study. So, island systems provide a useful framework here. Under island syndrome, we often see coordinated shifts in morphology, life history, and behavior driven by altered predation pressures, spatial constraints, and resource distribution. Morphological divergence is well documented, but behavioral divergence, especially in quantified naturalistic settings, is very rare among closely related species. So as I said, we analyzed 2 sympatric species with distinct ecological niches, Similis, which is the Highlander, and Baccarii, which is the Swamper. Highlanders typically occupy more terrestrial open habitats, whereas Swampers are largely confined to the mangrove ecosystems common on the island, which are like marshy swamplands with red, black, white mangroves. Also, morphologically, Swampers are smaller and males exhibit blue coloration, suggesting both ecological and potential signaling divergence. This creates a natural comparison for testing whether niche partitioning corresponds to systematic behavioral differences. Therefore, our research question is, do differences in ecological niches drive shifts in behavioral allocation and display? From a behavioral ecology perspective, we frame this in terms of time budgets and signaling behavior. Specifically, how much time individuals spend engaging in head movements, still behavior, in motion behavior, and then specifically head bob, which is up and down. I don't know if Alex wants to demonstrate this. And then we also investigated by species, age, and sex. So in addition to these analyses, we also wanted to construct the first ethogram for both of these species, a standardized behavioral taxonomy, and then those time budgets between age and sex as well, with focus on head bobs. Overall, we just did video on the island and then analysis once we got back to campus. We included 45 total iguanas in our sample, 17 Highlanders and 28 Swampers, over 12 days of research, 18 hours of video, and about 18 minutes of video per iguana.
Cool. So, as Matt mentioned, we developed the first ever ethograms for both the Highlander and the Swamper. This is a subsection of the ethogram, but there are about 20 behaviors in total, and all of these behaviors on the ethograms were shared across both species. And as Matt mentioned, we reduced these ethogram definitions to stationary, in motion, and head movement, just for the ease of video analysis. And so what we did with that was we constructed a time budget, looking at species comparisons and also age, so we restricted that to adult and juvenile. And what we found was that there are distinct species differences for moving and stationary behaviors as well as for age. And only in stationary are there age and species interaction effects. We also then took all the adult iguanas and separated them by sex, where we only found species differences across the two iguanas, with no sexual differences exhibited. And so then we looked at head bobs. These are displays made by many lizards, but also iguanas, that are used for territoriality displays as well as mating displays. And this is a Highlander doing his little head bob. And then this one is a Swamper on the bottom doing his. As you can see, they're a little bit different. And so our preliminary findings show that there are actually very big differences in how they move their head. And this is congruent with other findings in the green iguana that show that there are species-specific and, to an extent, almost individual-specific head bobs, which could be a signal of species communication, but as well as individual communication. And I've been asked to do the head bobs. So, just very, very briefly, the Highlander sort of has this like decay waveform where the male will start all the way up and then come down very slowly and then go back all the way up and hold that for a bit. Whereas the Swamper has just sort of tiny little head jerks before sticking his head way up into the air and coming back down. But yeah, includes, with that, I would like to thank Dr. Finger, Dr. Bone, Tom and Daisy down at Kemahow, and everyone else that has been working with us on the project. Grace and Jessica